Alright, now that I've finally seen Rise of Skywalker, I can finally look at what other people are saying about it. Okay, what are they saying? Huh. Isn't that the opposite of... what the... what is happening? Preface this, I only watched the movie once, and I'm gonna do my best to remember every little detail. So here we go. Rise of Skywalker. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here and say this movie was really okay. However, some people are calling it a dumpster fire of a trilogy, and well...
Jay, what was the bigger challenge, starting this trilogy or wrapping it up?
Not starting it. Wrapping it up for sure. Because it's 9 movies, and the responsibility is much greater, and you know, starting something isn't necessarily easy, but it's far easier because you know the possibilities of what happens
like a fire
are everything. It's like a fire. That's exactly right.
But a former pyro, it's like lighting it and see, putting it out.
It's harder putting out a fire. That's probably true. That's actually a good analogy. Oscar Isaac, ladies and gentlemen.
They aren't totally wrong. I thought Disney taking over meant they were going to play it safe, and they obviously didn't. There was some fun small detail stuff, and if you know any of the lore of Star Wars, the movie caters to that a little bit. I enjoyed it. So let's get started. Spoilers now. Don't say I didn't warn you. I'm going to take a Cosmonaut format and talk about the things I did like about the movie first. Granted, not all the things I liked about the movie, just the main points. I totally called that Ben would return to the light side, hence the name Rise of Skywalker. I'm glad they did this. I'm also not the only one because in the theater in front of me, there was a whole row of what must have been Adam Driver fangirls just throwing quasi-gang signs up every time he appeared on screen. Like when he and Rey were fighting and he came out of the wave, like the whole row was... I also liked how they had Rey fight with the dark side. I thought that was definitely the right way to go. They have been hinting at it since Force Awakens, and they kind of played with it with The Last Jedi, but like they didn't really like dig into it until now, and I really like that they did that. I also really liked Poe in this movie. I saw where they were going with this character, and his arc is really good with what happened more than the last 2 movies. It was like non-existent in the first one. It sucked in the second one because it's associated with everything I hate about the second one. And finally in this one, he gets some time to shine. He was also the most energetic and most entertaining on screen, in my opinion. Finn being force sensitive was also a neat little sum I liked in there, which I think is the thing that he wanted to tell Rey. I don't know why he wouldn't tell Poe. I mean, the man and him have a real bromance going. If I was force sensitive, I'd tell my bro. Like, I'd be like, yo, dude, I'm force sensitive. And he'd be like, what? I'd be like, haha. That was cringe. Or moving on. Oh, God. I also like the fan service stuff they did, like having Rey take Luke's X-Wing and having Ben do a Han Solo finger point. Now, I like to say this, I did not like the Sith ritual thing. However, it was nice for people who know about the Sith ritual, where the apprentice and master engage in a death match, and if the apprentice wins, they get their master's lightsaber and assume their title. That was a nice touch. Did I want to see in this movie? No, not really. Another thing I really liked was this overpowered Rey who used the Force a lot. I was totally fine with this. People call Rey a Mary Sue, but they forget that Luke Skywalker was also a Mary Sue. This is how Luke and Vader should have been in Episode 6. Luke should have used the Force to its max potential. Should have been super good. In the video games like Force Unleashed, Vader obliterates people using the Force. And I'm glad that they kind of had that in this movie with Rey using the Force a lot. And Kylo also using the Force a lot. I like it when people use the Force. Although the healing thing was like kinda BS. I mean, I know that was a technique that Anakin was looking for, right? I'm pretty sure. Crap. Sorry, I just dropped some. I'm pretty sure that's what they were looking for. Though Anakin was looking for that technique, but the way it was used, I wasn't a fan of it. Okay, let's see. Lightsabers, Ben, Poe, Darkseid, Rey. Yeah, okay, that's about most of the stuff I like. Now on to the bad stuff.
It is useless to resist.
The pacing was jarring in this film. It was like the Incredicoaster at Disneyland. We just zoomed out from the start. It felt very slapped together and rushed in some parts, and you could tell they were trying to fix every single little mishap from The Last Jedi. I mean, JJ basically just did Rian Johnson dirty. Like, that's just what happened. Like, The Last Jedi was like, I like to answer those questions left from Force Awakens, and then Rise of Skywalker just, like, pushes it out of the way and is like,
You ain't got the answers. You ain't got the answers.
I'm asking you.
You
a
ain't been
question.
doing the education.
Bro.
You ain't been doing the education.
I can just picture how the conversation probably went in the writer's room.
So let me get this straight. Fans didn't like Force Awakens because it was too similar to Episode 4, and they hated Last Jedi for being too different. What do they want? Yeah. So basically, you got Last Jedi here, and then you got Force Awakens, and then basically you have a spectrum. And Marker's dead. Basically, you have a spectrum from being too similar to being too different. You were going to operate in this gray area right here. That's the sweet spot of nostalgia bait plus new stuff to keep the audience engaged. Well, we got our work cut out for us. Hey guys, whoa, why is it so dark in here? It's whatever. Okay, so I'm actually working on Knives Out right now, so I'm not going to be able to help you guys out with the writing process, but I got my little notes. I thought maybe we could take this series with. Hey, what? Hey man, what do you... It's like you said yourself, Ryan. Let the past die. Kill it, if you have to.
Like, the movie moves at the speed of sound. Like, when Rey allegedly blows up Chewie, there's, like, a minute total for grieving. Or, like, when Lando, like, went into, like, the Millennium Falcon, and he just, like, looking just, like, a second of him being like, hey, I'm back home. But, nope, that's all that, yep, that's it. And then they moved on to the next plot point. Which, speaking of Chewbacca... Call me a sicko, but certain people not dying in this movie made it feel kind of dumb to me. It undermined a lot of the characters' individual arcs. For instance, when Rey thought she blew up Chewbacca, she should have actually blown up Chewbacca. This way, the guilt she feels for doing so is more poignant. Poignant, is that the right word? I think that's the right word. And stays with her through the rest of the film. But instead, we find out pretty soon after that Chewie was still alive and so happened to be in a different spaceship. Also, with the whole C-3PO memory wipe, sure, it was sad for a little bit. Then it was fixed after he gets his memory restored by R2-D2. Or the new chick that was Poe's crush or something. Her not dying undermines Poe's grief and doubt about being up for the job of general. That's the word I can use to describe this. Undermine. Chewbacca not dying undermines Rey's guilt and doubt, making her battle the dark side less intense. C-3PO's memory wipe being permanent would have made the crew feel a lot worse about treating him like a piece of garbage the entire film. Plus, the old characters dying would have paved the way for the new characters to shine more. I am so glad that the trio finally get to go to, like, on an adventure together. Like, I love that they did that. I love the chemistry between those three. I mean, it was annoying at some parts, but if it wasn't annoying, it was charming. Much more energy than what Liam Neeson brought in episode 1 when he was not killing anything in that movie. I almost thought they were going to do the same thing with Ben, where he would live and Rey would die. I honestly was laughing when Rey saved Ben and she fell over like, oh, time to die. And then Ben saves Rey, and then he's like, oh, I'm about to die for real this time. And then he falls over. I'm glad he did die though. I'm all for redemption, but for people like Vader or Kylo to be redeemed, I think they need to sacrifice themselves basically. Like Kylo had not redeemed himself for all the things that he's done, but I feel like in that moment there was enough balance. Obviously there was enough balance in himself to like, you know, vanish and go up with the Force. Like I thought that was fitting. I think Palpatine shouldn't have returned. The whole Sith ritual thing was cool, but nah, I'm good. It was like Dark Knight Returns out there with the whole... I wish there was a lightsaber fight at the end, but Palpatine never used a lightsaber except for in the prequels, and I think that's good. Yoda never used a lightsaber except for in the prequels, and even in the prequels, I think he should never have used one. It contradicts with what the Jedi stand for. When Luke didn't hit anyone with a lightsaber in The Last Jedi and no one died, that is how a Jedi is supposed to operate. On the flip side, Palpatine don't need a lightsaber to murk people. Man can summon a ghost armada of Star Destroyers. What the hell does he need a lightsaber for? Oh, and you know how Rey just kind of stands there, holds up 2 lightsabers and kills Palpatine? I don't know, Palpatine could have just like maybe aimed somewhere else or just stopped shooting out lightning and he wouldn't have died. Like maybe just force choke her a little bit, but instead he had to hibby-dibby, and then Rey figured out that she has 2 hands and that for some reason 2 lightsabers means double the power of reflection, and kind of just stands there.
He's just standing there, menacingly.
Now I have no real clips of the ending to show you, but I got something pretty close. However, if we are to include Palpatine, I think the ending should have gone like this. You know how Rey blocks Palpatine's lightning and deflects it back at him? She should have had the Sith in her, since she technically kills him, although I guess she didn't have the rage in her, so it doesn't count, but whatever. She kills Palpatine, strikes him down in anger or whatnot, and then she has all the Sith in her. She would be able to fight it off to where she could control the fleet to stop the fighting outside, but then Ben would still have to fight with her, and then Ben would successfully turn her back to the light side, but it would cost his own life to do so, and then he could Ben Kenobi go up to the Force. That would have been better, in my opinion. There are numerous endings that would have been better than the one we got, but I mean, oh well. It wasn't disgustingly bad, in my opinion. I got to hear Hayden's voice was in there. Whoever played old Ben Kenobi was in there. Ewan McGregor's in there. Yoda was in there. Ahsoka was in there. I heard Ahsoka's voice from the Clone Wars, the cartoon show. That was a nice touch. I liked how they had that. And then, you know, my boy Mace Windu, Sam Jackson, I heard his voice in there. Yup. Like, I like that. I can understand. It would have been cooler to, like, see them, like, maybe, like, help her up, like, off her feet. And then just, like, she's just surrounded by all the Ghost Jedi. But, I mean, like, I can understand why you can't really do that. Because, like, you would have to find all of the actors and get them to go there. That would have been, like, a nice touch. But, I mean, like, I can understand that. I thought the voices were just good enough. Or, like, you know, I would have liked to have seen Rey and Ben fight side by side in a lightsaber duel with those other Knights of Ren, even if that is like really similar to what happened in The Last Jedi. Would have been cool enough to call it a final fight. I mean, but you know, that's just my opinion. I thought Finn was also misused. It was a softball pitch to end his character arc with him giving an inspiring speech to stormtroopers to make them turn against the First Order after he defeated Phasma. But she's not alive for this movie, so it's not like they could do that. But he could still have given like a speech to the stormtroopers to make them turn. But no, true to form, JJ cucked everything that Rian Johnson tried to build up. Even with Rose, making her an insignificant character. And this one, there we go. Holy Christ, what the Now for the ending.
貴様、本当の名は何というジュゲムジュゲム五行のすり切れカイジャリ水魚の水魚松雲来松風来松クーネルところに住むところやぶら工事のブラ工事パイポの修輪岩のグーリンダイのポンポコピーポンポコナーの超救命の長介奇遇だな私の名もジュゲムジュゲム
Rey going back to Tatooine and burying Luke's lightsaber, Tatooine, right? And burying Luke's lightsaber where he grew up was a nice touch. Burying Leia's lightsaber there, though, I mean, I was fine with it because her home planet was kind of destroyed. And I mean, Han Solo's body is MIA last time I checked, so burying her saber with Luke's was fine. But Rey taking on the Skywalker name should not have happened. I cringed really hard when it did. Her saying Rey, just Rey, would have been so much better. If we're not doing the whole she's a nobody thing that Rian Johnson tried to do and try to make it so that, you know, just anyone can have an affinity with the Force and anyone can be a Jedi, then if we're not doing that and we're doing the whole like, oh, your Force affinity is within your balls, then just have her say her name is just Rey. That makes it so we know that she's accepted herself and doesn't let a name define her. Even with saying, I'm Rey Palpatine and I'm a Jedi, that would have been much better. That's punching her granddad in the face and destroying the legacy of darkness he wanted to create by making it one of light. Not that she needed a second part to her name in the first place. I mean, just ask Vogel.
So it's just McLovin?
Yeah.
That's badass.
It is badass.
Really
it's a
cool.
Badass,
yeah.
I enjoyed this movie. Cinematically and thematically, I thought Last Jedi was better, but in terms of enjoyment, I thought this was a nice way to end the Skywalker saga. Please, if you're going to make another trilogy in 10 or 20 years, don't have Skywalker anything to do with it. The whole dark side thing with Rey was interesting. I thought the dialogue was fine. People had problems with the quippy Marvel-esque lines sometimes, but I mean, who the hell sees Star Wars for dialogue anyway? George Lucas sucked at dialogue. Ask Mark Hamill, he's told us before. The sequels in general, I must say, are better than the prequels. I think they get way too much hate. Force Awakens was run off of nostalgia and bringing in a homage to a new audience so they can appreciate and somewhat relate to the movies we've seen without experiencing them themselves. The Last Jedi did its best. It had good themes and attention to detail. But overall, story-wise, it ended up being stupid. But hey, I thought what they did with Luke was good. Rise of Skywalker was enjoyable. My dad says he's felt like he's watched the same movie 3 times with the new sequels. Like, each new sequel just felt the same. And while I disagree, it does bring up something that I do agree with, in that Rise of Skywalker felt like Star Wars. A simple action-adventure movie with space wizardry. I enjoyed it. Star Wars has never been flawless in the least bit. If you think critically, you can see a bunch of problems even with the original trilogy, and don't even get me started on the prequels. But even with the prequels, there was a time when I enjoyed all 3 of them, even if I was brainwashed with toys and being an impressionable little child and the Clone Wars TV show. However, since I've been in a video production class and with writing my own book and learning to appreciate cinematography, writing and whatnot, it's made me unable to turn that side of me off sometimes and just enjoy someone's hard work. Because if it isn't hard work, then even with my brain turned off, I won't be able to enjoy it. So my scale goes like this. 2 out of 5 is Garbo, 3 out of 5 is I, and 4 out of 5 is like great, good. And enjoyment factor is included in this score. The reason I choose 5 and not 10 is to avoid being so goddamn nitpicky, because if you go into a movie like how Cinema Sins does, you're not gonna find much enjoyment there. Think of it as a grading curve. Everybody loves those. And so I like to give Rise of Skywalker, upon first viewing, a solid 3 out of 5. Or how I learned to stop worrying and just love Star Wars, goddammit. That's all I got.